Hey, what's going on? It's Bobby Skinner of Talking Giants, and you are listening to the Big Blue Podcast.
That's how we're going to begin this episode today, with some clown music, circus music, because that's what the New York Giants are. They're a complete clown show. I don't care what Joe Judge says. He said, you guys have probably heard in his press conference that he said the Giants aren't a clown show organization, but that is not true. The Giants are and always have been for the last decade. So I don't know. Obviously he's only been here for 2 years, but he's made it even worse than what it was when he wasn't here. So the Giants lost 29-3 to the Chicago Bears. Yeah, the Chicago Bears, who struggle to put up points, could barely put up 15 to 20 points, and they put up 29 on our ass. We only put up 3. Honestly, my score prediction was 15-10. I don't even know what to say. It was nowhere near that. 29-3 against the Bears. Their defense is pretty good, but their offense has been struggling the entire year. That's why Matt Nagy's going to get fired, because they can't put up points, and they put up 30 points, pretty much 30 points on us. That's kind of sad. Joe Judge really needs to take a deep look at his team and himself, because right now, I don't know where we're headed, but there's no direction with this team. Last year, I was optimistic that we're headed in the right direction. We had a lot of pieces in place. It looked like the future was bright, and looked like this year that with all the pieces added, we could make a potential playoff push, or at least be in contention at this point of the season. But that's nowhere near the truth. We've been eliminated for a while now. It's just disappointing. Complete disaster of the season this year. I don't even know where to start. Mike Glennon, first play of the game, he fumbles. The Bears recover, take it all the way down inside their own 5-yard line, and they score a touchdown with David Montgomery right up the middle. So, that kind of sums up our season. First play of the game and a turnover. I think Glennon had around 4 fumbles, but he only lost 2 of them. Kind of surprising, because DJ's the guy who's known for the fumbles and everything, and with this same offensive line, it seems like he's fixed his turnover problem, and Mike Glennon just struggles. But that wasn't even the worst part. He had 4 total turnovers, the two fumbles, and then he had 2 interceptions. That's not even the worst part either. He had negative 10 yards, the entire team. He was the only passer on this team, and the team had negative 10 total yards passing. How does that happen? I don't get it. I think he had around 16 or 24 passing yards, but with the interceptions and everything, it nets out to negative 10 yards. I haven't watched a game where the passing yards are below 0. I think the least amount of passing yards I've seen was actually this season with the Patriots, with Mac Jones and everything, where they only completed 3 passes or so. But with Mike Glennon, we saw last week, or when Jake Fromm, and we thought that was bad, but it just got worse. He got even worse this year. This week. It makes no sense at all. We think we hit rock bottom, and just keeps on getting worse and worse after that. So don't be surprised if we have negative 20 yards passing this week against Washington. It just makes no sense. And what makes even less sense is that we had 4 total turnovers, all from Mike Glennon. No fumbles from skill players or Saquon or any of that. It was all Mike Glennon. And the offense accounted for 3 total points. How is that possible? We have more turnovers than total points scored. It makes no sense whatsoever. I don't know. This is not an offense. This is not an NFL offense. This is not a team that... The defense is decent. It's average. It's worse than what it was last year, but it's lost some key players. You could say the same thing about the offense, but it doesn't even function normally. It makes no sense. You'd expect us to have positive passing yards. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is, or the receivers, or even the running back. We have good skill players, and we still amounted for negative passing yards. And it just makes no sense. Just not a functional offense. Doesn't belong in the NFL. You probably take a offense from a college team, put them on the Giants, and probably perform better. It just makes no sense. You know, Saquon Barkley, he had a pretty good game himself. He had around 18 or 20 carries for over 100 yards. Nice to see that from Saquon after last year, he, tearing his ACL against the Bears in week 2. So nice to see him get not really a revenge, but, it wasn't on purpose or anything, but the injury last year, but, he deserves a 100-yard game at least once this year. I think this was first time in like two years, I think. Yeah. So, good for him. We saw glimpses of the old Saquon. Nothing too special. It still seems like he's a little bit limited. Hopefully just him, coming off the injuries and all that. Hopefully it's not like he's washed or anything for next year, because he's probably going to be back with the team next year, bearing any, huge moves by the new GM, but don't expect that. But, nice to see that from him. Hopefully he could continue his strong performance against Washington. But, I don't think so. He had any receiving yards, but all rushing. So still over 100. Nice to see that. Joe Judge again. I'm going to bring up Joe Judge over and over again, but he preaches, playing the hidden yardage, because, he's a special teams coordinator and everything. So he's going to preach hidden yardage, which is, on punts and, punt returns, kickoffs, all that kind of stuff. Field position, that's really important to him. We've seen that with, the conservative play calling, where he punts it where, you'd expect other coaches to go for it. That's because he believes, you could win the game by, having great field, by controlling where the other team starts and where you start and all that kind of stuff. But we don't see that on the field. He could say whatever he wants at his press conferences or whatever he wants to his coaches and players, but he doesn't. What he preaches is not seen on the field. Before the half, we got the ball from the Bears, kicked it off. It was a kickoff. Pharoh Cooper was back to return it, and the ball lands at around the 5-yard line. I think Cooper thought the ball was going to bounce into the end zone, but that's where the coaching comes into play. The fundamentals that, if you don't think the ball is, going to cross the plane, don't expect the ball to, bounce in. Play it as if, it's going to stop where it's going to bounce, because sometimes it bounces in, you get lucky. Sometimes what happened. So, they were, Cooper was like, that it's a touchback, but it wasn't. And then I think it was Chris Myrick who told him that, the ball's still alive. I don't know, because Joe Judge is a special teams coach, and you would not expect mistakes like these. These are day one things you need to go over with your team and install, because it just makes no sense. Completely bizarre. Really unacceptable. He said it himself. He usually doesn't go at players, but even him, he came out Cooper and he was like, we have to do a better job there, and it's not acceptable, and it really isn't, because I mean that led to the safety. That led to 2 points for the Bears. So before the half, they had 8 total points. So if it was a competitive game, 8 points is a lot. Yeah. So totally unacceptable there. Mike Glennon, we talked about him and his turnovers and everything, but news came out today that, or was it? No, it was yesterday, my bad, that he hurt his wrist and he's done for the season. At this point, it doesn't matter, the season's already been over. It doesn't matter who plays or who doesn't. So we'll see another game of Jake Fromm. He'll get another crack at it. Hopefully he has a better performance than 2 weeks ago against the Eagles. Because I don't know. I want to say it can't get worse than -10 passing yards, but we've been proven wrong over and over again. Honestly thought Jake Fromm's performance was absolutely horrendous against the Eagles, and then gets worse the week after. So absolutely pathetic from this entire quarterback position. DJ, got to give him credit where it's due. He's really made an offense that's not functional into with him it was it was below average. We knew that we had to fix up the offensive line and get guys involved. The scheme wasn't the best, but we were averaging 18 and a half points with him. That's not great. That's still really low. That's probably bottom 5, probably bottom 10ish, but now we're averaging 12 or 13 points. So it gets even worse. I mean, and all our points, it's not like we're putting up points in the first or second or even third quarter. All our points have been coming during garbage time. So, you could take off half the points we put up. We haven't had a skill player score a touchdown. When I mean skill, I mean the receivers. They haven't scored a touchdown since the Panthers game. I think the last player to do so was Dante Pettis. Yeah, that's saying a lot. Dante Pettis, not Kenny Golladay, who we're paying $72 million to, not Darius Slayton, who we expected big things to, from not even Shep, who's been out. Can't really blame him, but he hasn't had a touchdown recently. Not even, has it? Evan Ingram had a touchdown, but garbage time again doesn't really count. Works during contract time, but that's about it. Yeah, so that's absolutely pathetic. The defense, it seems like we let up a lot of points, 29 points to the Bears. That seems like a joke of a defense, but to give them credit, they weren't that bad. It's really the offense that's letting them down. When you can't score points on offense, when you can't keep drives going, that's what's going to happen. Your defense is going to allow points. Your defense is going to break down eventually in the game, and that's what happened with us. So, you can't really expect anything from the defense now. Hopefully, guys get healthy next year. Hopefully, we could work around, contracts and stuff where we could bring most guys back, because right now cap casualties look like Blake Martinez. You could even include James Bradbury in there. Who knows what the new GM wants. Hopefully, he doesn't get rid of everyone, but we're going to have to get rid of players on the defensive side. To create some cap space just to bring in the draft choices. It's not even about free agency. It's about the draft right now, because we have 2 really high picks. I think we have the 5th pick right now and the 8th pick. Those are going to amount to like around 10 to 15 million. So we're going to have to create that money. Right now we have like 4 or 5 million, not even. We might even be, we're not under, I know that, but we're around 4 to 5 million. Not too great. Last offseason really set us back. We wanted to bring in these big guys, Kenny Golladay, Adoree Jackson, but it just hasn't worked out. Adoree Jackson's been injured. He's been playing really well, but when you set back contracts and don't have your foundation built, you don't have the key players around your team, you're gonna have to create a cap and get rid of some players that you want to keep, but you just can't. So we're going to have to build through the draft this year. Next year, hopefully we can have enough cap space to bring in impact player or 2. But this year, we're going to have to build through the draft, and we're going to have to act like we're building to draft a quarterback. We have to act as if DJ is the stopgap for this year or the upcoming season, because there's no point in paying another quarterback $10 million to come in and do what DJ is going to do. Because if you bring in a stopgap, it's not going to improve our team that much. Might even, look at the Broncos, Teddy Bridgewater. He's actually pretty good. He's decent, but, he's the definition of a stopgap quarterback. It doesn't put their team. They have the defense. They have the skill players. They have the running backs. Their offensive line is not that bad. But, you don't have the quarterback. Your team's not going to perform that well. It's going to be average. So, if we think DJ can at least be average for us, then he can be that stopgap, and then just get rid of him the next year. And if you built your team well, you built the offensive line, you have the skill players already, and if your defense is, average, above average-ish, then it's a great situation for a young quarterback to step into. Then we won't have to worry about building, around him as much. You could just bring in the best players that, through free agency or the draft. Don't you have to look at positions like this year where you think, you have 2 first-round picks. You want to use them on the best player available. This year, it's going to be that, the best player available is going to be the offensive line, is going to be offensive line players. But even if it wasn't, we are forced to take offensive linemen this year. So you don't want to put yourself in that position every single year. You want to take the best player available. So, we're just gonna have to build that way. And then when the quarterback comes, just keep adding to your team, keep adding, you'll already have the foundation built. You're just gonna have to keep on building up from there. And, so yeah, it could be DJ. Hopefully it is DJ. He could prove himself. But right now, with the new GM, maybe even a new coach coming in, who knows with what Joe Judge has done so far, there's a chance that there is a new coach on this team next year. So, no one has ties to if Gettleman's gone, no one has ties to DJ, even if Joe Judge is here. Because remember, he didn't draft him, Pat Shermer did. So, yeah, there would be no ties to him. I'm pretty sure the new GM would want to draft a new quarterback anyways. So that's that. What else do we have for this episode? I forgot to mention Lorenzo Carter. He's really stepping up, kind of. I mean, that's not the worst times possible, but better late than never. He's looking for that new contract, so hopefully, I mean, it's not going to be anything crazy. It's probably going to be around 3 million, maybe 3-4 million, if anything. But he's playing, he's auditioning for this team, other teams. I doubt he's a starter next year. I'm pretty sure we'll bring in someone through the draft, second, third round, maybe even first round to compete. So we'll see what happens at the edge position. Azeez Ojulari, he's pretty good, but he's not the number one like a Myles Garrett, a Nick Bosa, or TJ Watt, who's about to break Michael Straham's all-time seasonal pass record. So just set at 22.5. He's at 21.5. Good for TJ Watt, but don't want to see a former Giants player, his record going down. So it is what it is. But I mean, I'll bring up the Joe Judge press conference that he had. He was asked why fans should still have faith in this program with the Giants and what they're trying to build going forward. And Joe Judge usually gives us a short and sweet, right to the point. I mean, not really right to the point. He just, to him, it's right to the point where we're just beating around the bush, coach speak pretty much. But this time he comes out and gives us a 11-minute response to one question. There's a lot of mixed feelings with this one because, a lot of people are like, all right, no, that's good to see from your head coach who's not really showing emotions. He's kind of like a robot who he's just saying the right things just to say them. But this time he actually comes out, has some emotions, but he doesn't really do it in the right way because it feels like that a lot of what he said is lies. He came out and said that a lot of former players that played for the Giants, so last year pretty much, because he was only here a year. He's only been here for 2 years, so last year he's speaking about that they call him and tell them how much they want to come back, even if they're getting paid more elsewhere. To me, that's a complete lie. Like, what type of impact players that left the Giants last year? Dalvin Tomlinson, Wayne Gallman. Not a lot of impact players really left the Giants last year. So, I get with Dalvin Tomlinson that maybe, he's been here he had been here for 4 years and then left. But, I mean, I don't think so anyone's rushing to come back to the New York Giants or even, players on this team don't want to be here. Why would players who left the team having success elsewhere want to come back? That's a complete lie to me. Maybe practice squad guys who are working at McDonald's are calling him and telling him that, I need a job, I want another shot in the NFL. That's a possibility, but I don't think so. These high profile guys are calling Judge and telling him, I want to play for the New York Giants, because I don't know who would. I wouldn't want to, they're lucky I'm still a fan, but, I mean, no one wants to play for the Giants right now. The players on this team don't want to play. I mean, how do you expect players who are winning 8, 10, 12 games on other teams want to come back to a 4-win team? Makes no sense at all. And he also said that, players on the Giants right now that are going to be free agents are coming to his offense and telling him, begging him, not even telling him, begging him to re-sign them, and because that's how much they want to be with the New York Giants. That, to me, is a complete lie. Like, who do we have that's going to be a free agent? Evan Ingram, Jabril Peppers. I get Jabril Peppers, he's a New Jersey native, and all that stuff, but I don't think so. Sometimes on the field you see Jabril's frustration with the team, with the offense, with the defense, but I don't think so he's rushing to come back here, if he knows we can't pay him. Evan Ingram, he's gone anyway. for him, I think if I was him, I would want to leave the Giants. I'd want a fresh start. A change of scenery can go a long way for a player. So I'm pretty sure, I don't know. I mean, we don't really have high profile guys that are going to be free agents besides for Peppers. Peppers and maybe even include Ingram in there, but I mean, not a good look for Joe Judge at all. He speaks of the present. He says he's thinking about next week. He's not thinking about the future. He's not thinking about the draft or his job security or any of that. But then why are you bringing up, why are you bringing up March with the free agency and all that stuff? I mean, why are you bringing up the past? It makes no sense at all. And speaking of the past, he brought up his time with New England. He brought up the 2018 season where he said that after a rocky start, that the entire coaching staff was put on notice that were put on the hot seat pretty much, saying that anyone could get fired at any moment because of how bad they were. But the Patriots started off 6-2 that season, went on to win the Super Bowl against the Rams. So I think that's a complete lie. I don't think so. Bill Belichick would have been on the hot seat that year. There's definitely, maybe their special teams has been always good, and I'm pretty sure it was good that year too. So I don't think so. It was only Joe Judge put on notice, because when you're playing well, when you're performing well, when your players are meeting the expectations by the fan base and, the set by ownership and everything else, I don't think so. The coaches are going to be on the hot seat. So that's complete BS from Joe Judge there. He was rambling about a couple of things. There was a lot. He brought up Pat Shurmur, not directly, obviously. He was saying, before he got here, players were planning vacations. They're golfing. The clubs and everything were in the locker rooms, hanging around their lockers and all that kind of stuff. Honestly, that's possible, but I don't know why you bring up a past coach who you're supposed to replace and be much better at. Because I think right now Pat Shurmur has a better record with. Wait, does he? No, because no, he doesn't. Joe Judge still has one game on him. That's, nothing. That's 9 games for Pat Shurmur, 10 games for Joe Judge. Not saying a lot, but yeah. So not a good look for Joe Judge when he's going at other coaches who've obviously moved on. They're doing other, they're coaching for other teams and stuff. So this, to me, from Joe Judge, it looks like he wasn't talking to the fan base as the question was. The question was, what would you say to the fans that don't have faith or who are losing faith in the Giants and Joe Judge and what he's trying to build? So it was more directed to John Mara. I think this was Joe Judge coming out and, speaking to Mara, telling him, all right, I did this, and this. I haven't done this. This team isn't, doing this and that. So, this is why you shouldn't fire me. This is why you should bring me back for another year, no matter what happens with the GM's position. This, looks like a guy who's desperate, who's fighting for his job, and he should have been from the beginning of the season. But I guess he let his guard down and everything. But so it's possible he gets fired. I think the team still likes Joe Judge, which is not a good thing, because when you win 4 games and your offense is barely putting up 10 points every game, you'd expect the offensive side and the head coach to be put on notice. But that's not the case with the Giants, because we're a classy organization. We like to do things the right way. If Joe Judge was put on the hot seat, I think other, around the league, around the NFL, it would seem like the Giants don't know what they're doing. I think John Mara is not trying to have that happen, even though that's not going to work. Because at this point, no one cares about the Giants. We're a laughingstock. We're becoming the Browns. We're becoming who the Browns were. So it's sad, the Giants already have a bad rep, and it's getting worse and worse. With every decision that John Mara thinks is a classy move, it just makes the Giants look even worse and worse. Not firing Dave Gettleman by now, but you fire Jerry Reese, who won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants. You fire him midway through the season, but you can't fire Dave Gettleman. Yeah, I get that Dave Gettleman's been with the team before, and maybe, you have, a connection there. But Jerry Reese was with the team before too. He at the end of the day, you want to win Super Bowls. Jerry Reese won 2 Super Bowls, and you let him go a couple games before the season ended. I don't know why you can't do that same thing with Dave Gettleman. Makes no sense at all. If you get rid of Dave Gettleman, it's not just to get rid of him. It's so you have a competitive edge. You have an edge against other teams who are looking for a GM. You could start your GM search already. You could bring in candidates. You could interview them, all that kind of stuff. You could start in-house with Kevin Abrams and then bring in guys like Louis Riddick, Scott Polio, and a number of other guys who aren't on other teams yet, who aren't on other teams. But Giants don't want to do that. I don't know why. Makes no sense. Like a lot of things the Giants do makes no sense at all. Blows everyone's minds. Makes no sense at all. So yeah, Joe Judge, 11-minute response to one question. Complete BS. I like to see that he brought out some emotions, but when you're speaking lies, when Mitchell Schwartz came out and said that he was referencing to the 2018 comment that Joe Judge made when he was with the Patriots. He came out and said that that's complete lies. The team was above 500 by a large margin. They were 6-2. How can Bill Belichick be on the hot seat at that point? So it just makes it think. It makes no sense at all. Complete lies. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. With all that being said, I think if the Giants do bring back Joe Judge, I kind of see where they're coming from. I'm not gonna hate the move, but it's gonna. I mean, if they get rid of him, I'm fine with that. Probably would be the right move, getting rid of him and the GM at the same time. Just letting the new GM, bring in whoever he thinks is going to help the team, whoever his guy is. Because now if you link Joe Judge and the new GM together, just the same thing over again when you did when you fired Shermer and kept Gettleman. Same thing over again. And then if Joe Judge doesn't pan out, then we're in the same position, 3, 4, 5 years from now, and then the same thing over again, and the rebuild's going to continue. And then at that point, it's going to reach 2 decades where the Giants have been complete shit. So it just gets worse and worse. There's no direction at all. And that's not what you want to see when your coach is talking about internal stuff, about the culture and, guys not giving up and their fight and their effort and all that stuff. That's when your team's absolutely shit. Because, what you want to show the NFL is not what you have internally, culture and all that. There's only one culture in the NFL, and that's a winning culture. And the Giants haven't had that since who knows when, 2011, last time we won a Super Bowl. Everything went downhill from there. But, we saw the same thing with Pat Shurmur when he was speaking of internal their foundation being built, the internal improvements and all of that, and that led to him getting fired. So Joe Judge seems like he's going down the same path. Hopefully, if he's the head coach next year, he figures things out, because right now it's not looking good for him, not looking good for the team. So yeah, that makes no sense whatsoever. Bill Parcells said that you are what your record says. And, he couldn't have been more true. The Giants are 4-12. They're going to be 4-13. We're not beating Washington. I don't care how bad they are. The Bears are way worse than Washington, and we got destroyed by them. There's no way we beat Washington unless if a miracle happens. But at this point, winning is going to cause us more harm than good. So, yeah, but, I'm still going to be rooting for the Giants to win. When the game turns on, never want us to lose. The guys put in a lot of work and everything. So, but if we lose, that's probably going to be the best interest of this team. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this episode, this video. Probably will only be on YouTube this time. We're having some problems with Anchor. That's a platform that we use to, get our episodes out onto other platforms like Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts. So, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Please hit the subscribe button. We're really trying to get going. Drop us down a comment. That's probably the most important thing. We want to know what you guys are thinking. Give us some video topics that we could do, because the season's coming to an end. There's going to be draft content and all that stuff coming up too. So, keep an eye out. We're just getting started on YouTube, but stick with us. It's going to be a fun ride. Yeah, go Giants.